Well, it's been busy now. Let's talk about what we can expect next week. It's meteorologist Joe Martucci here with your January 17th edition of Snow Search. I am joined with meteorologist Sean Sublette in Richmond, Virginia. Sean, we went all last winter with nothing, and now here we go. It's been, since the beginning of the year, like a marathon with at least the potential for snow, if not icing, really for a good portion of the mid-Atlantic, parts of the South and the Northeast.
Yeah, I remember when we did Snow Search last week, we were talking about this event that just hit this past Monday, and we've got something coming up on Friday, although that Friday event is more your way than mine.
Yeah.
But then as we get into the following week, it looks like we'll catch a little bit of a break, but that's kind of putting the cart before the horse. If you're new to Snow Search, this is what it's all about. We do this every Wednesday. We look ahead at week 2 in terms of where it might be especially cold or where there might be some snow. So in this case, we're talking about the week of January 22nd. This is a broader outlook. We're not going to say, this town and this state is going to get X amount of snow 7 days from now, but we're looking at general trends in the data and where we see some opportunity for some snow anywhere from North Carolina to upstate New York. And the chances aren't the best next week, but a lot of places have finally broken their snow drought. Joe, take us through some of those numbers.
Yeah, so New York City, Harrisburg, Atlantic City International Airport, and Roanoke all saw snow this month for the first time in quite a while. And in New York and Roanoke, it was over 700 days with the longest streak. Down in my hometown here, my neck of the woods, Atlantic City International Airport, which I want to make the distinction is inland. It's not at the coast. There's no observations there for snow. But inland, we broke it on Monday with 1 inch of snow exactly, 715 days. And in Harrisburg, third longest streak, but you get more snow out there, 345 days, the third longest, and that was snapped on January the 5th. Now, let's take a look at our winter indexes for next week. And we're going positive with the North Atlantic Oscillation. We've been negative for a couple of weeks, for about 2 weeks. Now we're going back up to positive. That means the jet stream runs a little more west to east. We call this zonal flow. Typically, it's milder. You get that air from the Pacific Ocean. And storms that come through are fairly weak. You go to the Arctic Oscillation here. It's also positive, actually really positive early next week. It comes back down as we get towards the beginning of February, but generally positive, so it's the same story. The NAO and the AO are pretty closely related. And then we look at the Pacific North American pattern, which has been in purgatory since we've pretty much been doing Snow Search, staying around neutral, little influence from that. We'll look at the North Atlantic Oscillation and what it means. We're going into positive mode. Again, the jet stream moving more west to east between low pressure in Iceland and high pressure over near what we call the Azores, which is in the eastern Atlantic. Generally, milder side. You're talking about 40s in upstate New York, more 50s here in New Jersey and central Pennsylvania, and down by your neck of the woods, Sean, maybe you pop a 60 or a 65. So we call it a winter break. As we go into next week. Take us through that mid-level weather pattern, Sean, and what we're going to see.
Yeah, I've heard that referred to as the January thaw, and that is going to be the case. When we look at the mid-level weather pattern, this is basically up at the jet stream level, kind of tracing the movement of air 15 to 20,000 feet above the ground. And this is where we watch for storm development. The L's where we've got that. But the thing to notice here, as we start the pattern on Monday the 22nd, all the cold colors have kind of retreated northward back up into Canada. You put it into motion, we have a couple of these weaker little systems, these little dips in the jet stream. We've marked with those L's coming through, but there is not a lot of big time energy coming in to North America or Eastern North America this week to generate a legit big old snowstorm. We do think there are a couple of weak systems that go by in what we call the northern branch. And that's why we think there's at least the opportunity for some snow toward the middle of next week. But upstate New York, we think that's going to be much more difficult, even to the Laurels of Pennsylvania, the higher country of Jersey, where you are, the lower Hudson Valley. That all just looks like rain. And this system is especially weak coming through in this Tuesday to Wednesday next week time frame. So Buffalo, Mohawk Valley, going into the Berkshires, a light snow, a couple inches is where our mind is right now. Elsewhere, it's just light rain because in this type of pattern, as you alluded to, Joe, um, the warmer air from the Pacific floods in, and our colleagues at the Climate Prediction Center have keyed on this as well. When we look at the temperature outlook for next week, it is skewing widely warmer than normal. This is the broad temperature outlook Monday through Friday of next week, and all those colors warmer than normal. So a good 5 to 15 degrees above normal for the time of year next week. So it is going to be tough to get any kind of legit snow next week, Joe, for sure.
Yeah. And you know what, too, just to illustrate this map, the darker the color, the more confident the Climate Prediction Center is in it being warmer than normal. And there's some pretty dark reds over our area as we go forward into next week here. So, like we said in Snow Search in our commercial that we done in our first episode, we're not going to lie to you. I mean, if there's not much to talk about, there is not much to talk about. And that's pretty much what we have next week. It's milder. Enjoy the warmer air. There will be some light snow or wintry mix in upstate New York, some parts in northern Pennsylvania as well. Then as we get towards the end of the month, late January, early February, we're eyeing some late cold here, late month cold, early next month cold. Like we had in our winter outlook here, did look to be stormy, certainly has been stormy, will be stormy this week. Next week, more of a break. It's one storm, and it's not even all that strong. So, Sean, one thing you can't stop searching for, weather or otherwise. Go for it, my man.
So we're going to keep searching for the big snow, right? At least here in central Virginia, where I am in Richmond, we had half an inch of snow with this system. Now, having said that, just across our metropolitan area of Richmond, Virginia, there is 2 or 3 inches on the north side of town. My side of town, south of James River, we had a coating. So it went down officially as a half inch. What I'm looking for is February. For those who really like to geek out over weather data, the European weeklies have this really broad signal for the middle of February of it getting legit kind of cold again in the eastern United States. That's what I'm keeping an eye on for weather because, man, people are still itching for a good 4+ inch snow across the whole state.
I hear you. Yeah, I mean, we had 2.3 where I was just a couple miles away from the Jersey Shore itself. And, felt like a lot compared to, what we saw over the past 700 days or so. I'll do one thing I searched for, although I found it, and that was my ice scraper because I haven't had to use it in literally nearly 2 years. So last night I was trying to scrape my car because my car was pretty much covered in ice. One of those where you have to pull the door handle, a couple times to get it going. And I'm like, where's my ice scraper? Once I got in the car and I'm looking, I'm like, it's not in the back. I said, is it in I have a little bucket of car stuff. I was like, no, it's not in there. Turns out it was somewhere else in the garage. And I was like, oh, yeah, all reliable there that I haven't used. So now I know where it is and probably going to be using it as I go into this Friday, January 19th, where if you're in a good portion of our Snow Search listening area.
You are going to get it.
What's that?
You are getting the snow out of the Friday event.
I am getting it.
I am not.
We could be ground zero for most snow in New Jersey. Not that we're expecting a lot, but 6 inches could happen somewhere at the Jersey Shore. That's all I'll say. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up for this week's Snow Search. For meteorologist Sean Sublette, I'm Joe Martucci here. You can find more details on specific upcoming weather on your favorite local news website. But we will be back with you next week. We'll cover that last week of January, which might be more interesting than this week. Nonetheless, we thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.